Thank you for coming. I mean, this is, I'm actually surprised that there's anybody here. I was thinking, you're here either because you don't know who Christopher West is, or you're just being kind to us, didn't want us to feel bad, or you're really, really motivated, which I'm hoping is what speaks for all of you. And I know we have one engaged couple here, so you're certainly really motivated to get some good ideas about marriage prep. So I've talked to my two co-presenters about we're really, of the three of us are going to really be disciplined about trying to keep our comments contained within 10 minutes, okay, give or take. And I've been appointed the task of clearing my throat if anybody goes longer than that. I won't be rude about it, but I will try to move the agenda along. And then because there are so few people here, it won't be such a big deal if anybody wants to come up to the microphone to ask a question, so you won't feel like you're on the spot or anything. So anything that you want to ask, please feel free to ask. So the first person I'm going to introduce in our panel is Mario Martinez, who's works for the Diocese of San Bernardino, which is actually the host diocese of this event. So thank you very much for your diocese hosting this, Mario. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and welcome you up here, and you can tell us all about marriage and family and marriage prep programs in your own diocese. Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Well, still good morning. Good morning to everyone, and welcome to San Bernardino. It's part of sunny Southern California. Some of you are probably from here also, right? Is anybody from the diocese, from our diocese here? Back there? Good. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for choosing from many options our session today. It is an honor. So again, my name is Mario Martinez, and I work for the Office of Catechetical Ministry, and that's where in our diocese marriage and family life falls into. We don't have an office. The Diocese of San Bernardino is fairly new. We're celebrating our 40th year anniversary of being established as a diocese. We were part of the Diocese of San Diego for many years, and then we became the Diocese of San Bernardino. And I really enjoy being here in San Bernardino, and I've been working for the diocese approximately 8 years now doing this ministry of marriage and family life, which within the scope of family life, it's the preparation for the sacrament of matrimony to also ministering to those that are divorced and separated. But we're going to focus a little bit more on the marriage preparation today, and what does that consist? In our diocese, marriage preparation is parish-based. What that means is that each parish, by policy, should offer something, and not just anything. There's a policy in place of what is the minimum requirements for a couple to go through in order for them to be ready to receive the sacrament of matrimony. And many dioceses, and even in our diocese, NFP is not necessarily in that category. So we've been pushing for it to become part of our minimum requirements, but we've been trying to do it in different ways, because as we've been hearing today, talking about contraception and trying to just get that directly out there, people are not really ready for it. They're not ready to say, okay, we're just gonna follow God's law. After many years of not following it. So it's been a challenge for us to introduce the topics and introduce even theology of the body per se in our diocese, and not just the priest, but also, clergy and ministers and all the way down. So in 2010, when Bishop Barnes, our bishop, launched the marriage initiative, we did develop a plan to form those ministers that are working with the engaged couples. And at that time, we decided to incorporate a 4-day training, which included from the sacramental preparation of what is marriage, the Institute of Marriage, catechesis of marriage, and other topics that were part of the requirement for the parishes to provide this service. Again, NFP wasn't really part of that. And anything that has to do with sexuality was part of that. And that was kind of shocking to me when I started working for the diocese, since my wife and I were practicing NFP. And going back to our story, it wasn't as easy to find an instructor here in our diocese at that time, but we managed. So as Bishop launches this marriage initiative, and we created this program for formation, we kind of really early on, we saw that there was a need for us to also incorporate the teachings of the church when it comes to fertility and comes to how is it that they're going to live their matrimony holy in a holy sense. So what we did is we didn't just try to do it on our own, and this is what was kind of unique of our diocese, and Bishop was really pushing us to do this. We wanted to start collaborating with other offices as well. So then NFP doesn't fall into our office or anything that has to do with marriage and family. It falls in the office called the Office of Respect, Life, and Pastoral Care Programs. And that's where Pro-Life Ministries and NFP is standing as of today still. The good thing and what was a blessing was that we were able to collaborate together to start, so it wasn't just a one person trying to do NFP in the diocese, but now there's two offices, and now with our efforts, trying to get others involved. Today we have the Office of Youth, Young Catholics collaborating with us. We have the whole Office of Catechesis and Evangelization working with us as well in this project and trying to promote NFP and sexuality in the lens of the church. So that's been amazing. With respect to the formation of our ministers, we still offer that 4 sessions, but we added a whole day, and not just for those working with couples, but those that are also working in catechesis. Those are in RCIA, those that are for, serving for First Communion, reconciliation, all the catechists, all different types of catechists, the youth ministers, they're all invited to be part of this program. And not only we teach about contraception and what is NFP, but we also do an introduction to theology of the body. So then that's been it's been productive now because now there's more awareness of what is it that the church is teaching. We still believe we're in we're in a baby stage. There's a lot of work to be done. We have, even in our Hispanic, 70% of our population here in San Bernardino is Hispanics. And the taboo alongside with sexuality, it's tremendous. I mean, there's walls, people don't talk about sex in their table setting, it's not something they tend to do. So it has been a challenge, and but again, our aim is to establish not only within just the office or the efforts of marriage and family life, but for NFP to be part of any kind of ministry, and that it's, we talk about it openly, and it's part of who we are and what we want to teach. Again, in conclusion, what we're trying to do is not just have a minister or an office that is teaching or responsible of NFP, but to have these different diverse offices to understand what the church teaches in respect to NFP. And not only that, but how is it that they themselves could invite these other couples that are teaching to do introductions and just become more aware as a diocese and in the parishes. And our hope is that one day we will see as a part of a requirement, as part of the marriage preparation here in our diocese. But I say this because it's across the country is so diverse of what is it that the diocese offer or recommend or require for the couples to get married. And I mean, if your diocese requires, that's awesome. And if it doesn't, seek for those that are doing NFP at diocesan level or your parish level to try to, motivate them. And this is a teaching that we need to, bring to the people so that we could be more faithful in the way we live our lives as a Catholics. Thank you.
Well done, Mario. Thank you. So I got to point out one of the participants in the back of the room, 2 priests back there. One of them, raise your hand, Father Berg. Come on. This is Father Berg. You probably saw him introduce a couple of speakers. He's my brother-in-law. So he's here because he's feeling sorry for me and wants to make sure we got some. So Father Berg has 10 sisters. So the chances that I was going to marry into his family were fairly high to begin with, regardless of whether I'd, actually ever encountered him. So in fact, when I was introducing myself around the diocese, I now work for the same diocese where Father Berg is. I said, my calling card was, I'm Father Berg's brother-in-law. And I said that to one priest, and he says, most people are. But anyway, it was when Bridget, my wife, his sister, and I were going through our marriage preparation, which was a pretty poor experience, frankly, that is what actually motivated me to change my whole line of work. I had been a lawyer before then, and I said, my gosh, here I am using my kind of skills of argumentation and persuasion for stuff that doesn't like really matter. And nothing against lawyers in general, but I thought, man, I really just want to use this native ability that I've got to be able to talk about things that really do matter. So in the eternal long run. So that's why I made the career change and started working for the church as a layman, went on to get a master's degree, and have been working in diocesan ministry ever since. So my thought was, give me a crowd full of engaged couples, and I really want to tell them the truth and beauty of the sacrament of marriage. So that's why I'm here today, 20 plus years later, in marriage prep ministry. But I kind of bring that up because I was really, really hungry to be addressing lots and lots of engaged couples. So I took over, I was running the pre-Cana program for the Diocese of St. Augustine. That was the diocese I worked for before coming to Sacramento. And I literally taught thousands of engaged couples. We would have 60 couples packed into a room for this all-day pre-Cana program, which over the years I had refined into a very good program. I mean, the valuations were glowing, and their response rate to questions like, are you going to abstain till your wedding day, were pretty good, and are we going to adopt NFP, very good percentages. And yet, over the years, something in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, something is just not right with this picture, because most sacramental prep takes place where? At the parish, not at the diocese. So there was, and I was thinking, in particular, here I am giving a very good message to these couples, this room full of 60 couples, and what's going to happen after they walk out the door? I hand them their certificate, bye-bye, I'll never see you again. Is there anybody else in the parish, in the family, even the priest preparing them, who's going to follow through with them, who's going to accompany them, who's going to reinforce what they learned at the pre-Cana? Probably not. So anyway, I'm beginning to think something's wrong with this picture, and then my next diocese, Diocese of Sacramento, where I've been working now for the last 9 years, fortunately my bishop and new boss was kind of thinking, had been thinking along those same lines, that this large pre-Cana class setting is just not the best model. Well-intentioned, good content, but in terms of evangelization, it's really not ideal. So we began this transition to essentially shut down a large and good pre-Cana program in both English and Spanish, while at the same time building up parish-based marriage prep programs. So at the end of 2013, I think, I'm losing track of time now, it was cold turkey. We shut the program down, and we've been sort of living off of parish-based marriage prep ever since. So the idea, we boiled it down to 3 words. Marriage prep should be local, gradual, and relational. Okay, and this large pre-Cana class was none of the above. It wasn't at the local parish. It wasn't gradual. I mean, most of us, we learn in several stages. We need to go to several classes and get reinforcement. And it certainly was not relational. How much of a relationship am I going to get with, a class of 120 people? So anyway, that's what we're going to do with our marriage prep. So first thing I want you to, keep that in mind, those 3 terms, that good marriage prep and good marriage education is not just a matter of informational transference. Now, for some people like me, intellectuals, thinking types, you just give us the right information, that's going to make the difference. But for most people, they need a gradual relational process of evangelization. So please keep that in mind for your parish-based programs, that they should be both good catechesis, okay, that's the content of the faith that we're delivering, and it also needs to be evangelization involved in it. We want to win their hearts for Christ and welcome them into the faith community that is the parish. So for that, we need good material, and then we also need to have good, for the parish-based teams that we're going to have, they need to be quality people. These need to be the best couples of your parishes, not just your showcase couples, not just the couples who do everything else in the parish, but couples who are deeply motivated by, the church's vision of marriage and living it out. So those people who run the programs at the parish, they need to be screened, and they might need to be excused out of the program. They may need to be asked not to be doing marriage education or marriage preparation. So they need to be screened and they need to be formed. Okay, now we can talk some more about good formation programs, but actually before I was a lawyer, I did sales, and one of the slogans of good sales is, you can't sell what you don't buy. If you don't believe this stuff yourself, how are you going to be able to convince anybody else to believe it? And that is the case of so many people doing marriage prep ministry. They're given this module on natural family planning, and they don't really believe it themselves. So how effective are they going to be at transmitting it? All right? There might be some other parish ministry that they'd be okay about, but they need to get it about the truth and meaning of sexuality and fertility. Okay? If they don't, they shouldn't be on the team. So good formation of your marriage prep team. I will also mention good material. Now, we could go on and on about good material. The formation, as between material and formation, the formation is far more important than the material. A good catechist can make a lot of, do great even with poor material. But if you've got somebody who's a poor catechist, even with good material, they're going to mess it up, or they're going to, present it in an ineffective way. So I could again, if you want to know, I can give you, we can talk more about this in the Q&A session about good marriage prep resources. But I will mention one in particular. Actually, let me back up. When we revised our marriage prep policy a couple of years ago, as part of this transition out of the big diocesan marriage prep class, so that we made 5 things required of marriage prep. Of course, the initial processing with the meetings with the priest or deacon preparing them. The marriage prep program, they had to do a marriage prep inventory called either Focus or Prepare Enrich or what's that other one out of St. Cloud? No, not in. Fully engaged. Okay, and then they had to should be assigned a mentor couple, a couple to accompany them through the whole marriage prep process and hopefully continue the relationship with them beyond the wedding. And then fifthly, we required a full 1-hour intro to natural family planning given by a certified NFP instructor. Simply watching a video, not good enough anymore. We really want them to interact, meet with, a credible, certified NFP teacher. All right, now, what I was going to mention to you a second ago, that the requirement that everyone take a program, everyone still has to go through what we call a formal marriage preparation program. That can be met in one of 3 ways. You can either go on the Engaged Encounter Weekend. Okay, now the Engaged Encounter Weekend it's a good program, but once again, it's only as good as the team that's running it. So I would want to make sure that the marriage prep team in your area that's running the Engaged Encounter Weekend, that they're with the program. You know what I mean when I'm saying with the program. The other option is a parish-based marriage prep series, either 4 to 6 sessions, short sessions spaced out over time to give the couples time to integrate all the material that's being presented to them. Again, good marriage prep, local, gradual, and relational. The third option that they have for doing their marriage prep program, and this is one that I want you to note, and that is an online marriage prep program. And our diocese is, geographically enormous. Diocese of Sacramento is, I think it's about the same square mileage as all of New England fits into the Diocese of Sacramento. 105 parishes spread all over Northern California. We have some parishes that you got to drive 6 hours from Sacramento to get there. They're way out in the boonies. So for those parishes, and also they might have one wedding every other year. I mean, it's just not that much volume. So for them to be putting together a marriage prep team, it's not a really good use of resources, and probably not going to find anybody to do it anyway. The online marriage prep program, and I've got literature for it. It's CatholicMarriagePrep.com. And it is a mentor-led online program. And don't think that if you're sending your couples to this course that you're giving them a short shrift. It is a very good course, and it is actually a course where they learn things. They have to fill out worksheets and email those back, and the mentor then comments on their worksheets. I've got, there's this little stat sheet here on before and after from the couple's own, the couples who go through this program. 10% of the couples are sexually abstinent before they start the program. By the time they finish, 80% have decided that they're going to wait until their wedding day. I wish our live programs were as effective as that. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. Before, about 20% decide we're not going to use contraception in their marriage. At the end, 68% choosing not to use contraception. Participation in parish life, irregular before going through the program. After going through the program, 99% of the individuals and couples going through the program said they were intending to become more involved in parish life. So anyway, great program. I got more literature for you about them. I can talk more about it if you'd like, but that's the end of my 10 minutes. I'm sure I've gone longer than I had to. All right, so Alice Heinzen. Alice, thank you for coming out here from Wisconsin. She is the queen bee, of marriage prep. I have learned so much from her. And also, she's one of the principles of diocesan ministry is it's principle of what I call Robin Hood ministry is you steal from the rich and give to the poor. At least half of my NFP content on my website I stole from her. Actually, I got her permission first, but anyway, Alice, I'm sure has wonderful things to say, and thank you so much for coming from LaCrosse.
Okay, Steve, thank you. So when Mario told you their diocese has been together for 40 years, our diocese is celebrating 150 years right now. So when you hear what we're doing in our diocese, please understand we've been together twice, 3 times, what are you, 40 years, we're 150. So you should expect a little bit more when you've been a diocese for that long because we've had more time to develop things. All right, Mario, thank you for handing out the handout that I've prepared for you. I'm going to get into the practical information, and this is what I'm always afraid. I hand out handouts, and everybody stops looking up here, and they start reading. So just, control yourself, because you've got my email address there, you've got the website there, and I'm going to direct you through all of this. But at the top of that sheet, I want you to write 3 words. Number 1, plan. Leave a little space after that. 2, provide. 3, promote. Okay? Plan, provide, promote. Okay. Everybody that's going to do marriage ministry needs to have a plan. If you got a plan, you'll work your plan. If you don't have a plan, you're not going to work the plan. If you have a plan, your success is going to be able to unfold in front of you. Otherwise, it's a pie in the sky. We learned this the hard way. I've been doing this for 25, 30 years, and I'm just going to tell you there's benefit in having a strategic plan. Now, to that end, just steal everything. It's fine. But in 2009, the bishops of Wisconsin, so there are 5 dioceses in our state, the bishops came together and they put in what's called imperfect union. You go out, Google imperfect union, you're going to get the full document. But you can also get it on our website. But if you just want to Google it, you can find it. But basically, our state has guidelines on what has to be in immediate marriage prep. Okay? So that's 2009. Look at it. I don't have enough time to explain it. But after that document came out, our bishop came back to us in our diocese in the 19 counties of Wisconsin. So we basically go from the Mississippi River 4 hours east towards Green Bay. Go Green Bay Packers. And then you go down to Prairie du Chien, which is almost down to Dubuque. So we are top to bottom about 4 hours east to west, or about 4 hours. 19 counties, more cows than people. When we came back, Bishop said, I want you to do phase 2. And what I want you to do is look beyond immediate prep. Our bishops have put this down for you. So he forced us to look at remote, proximate, immediate, and aftercare of marriage. And we did a full study with white papers that are available to you on our website. But we studied our whole diocese, got, our parishes and that kind of stuff. In the middle of page 1, it's going to tell you the 7 challenges that we know we're facing in putting out our plan. And those are, most Catholics in our diocese are unable to explain or defend the Catholic Church's teachings on marriage. A growing number of Catholics have lost sight of marriage as the natural foundation of the family. More and more youth are struggling to accept their noble dignity as children of God. There's a growing acceptance, yada, yada, yada. I'm sure you guys are dealing with the same stuff. Now, from the plan then, what we did is we strategically, that's the word that goes behind plan, be strategic about this. We identified the barriers. Once we identified the barriers, we then came up with specific strategies that we need to provide. So that started at the bottom of page 1, all right? These are the things now that we are doing, and you're going to see they go beyond immediate marriage prep. But we have to start spreading the theology of the body to our parents who come in with a baby to baptize. We have to invite them to get married if they're not married. We have to use all of that. So why? Because that if we can convince them to get married when only 41% of the children in the Diocese of LaCrosse are being born, and this is the full diocese and our 19 counties, are being born to married parents, kind of sounds like a group we should probably invite to get married, right? So, okay, so you follow that. You can read through the 7 suggestions. That's just the tip of the things that we're doing. All right, the one that's bolded is the one that we're working on now. So you see our plan unfolding? Yes? Okay, proximate, if you turn to flip that first page over, proximate, what we're working on now is identify and clarify any unclear teachings that are found in the catechesis that is offered to families and youth on marriage and family. Use clear thinking methodologies. So this is now the integration of theology of the body. It's the integration of a lot of good things. And we're trying to get parents re-engaged in the education of their children. Why? Because many of the kids that are coming to education, religious ed or in the schools, their parents are not sacramentally married. Another group we should probably contact, right? Okay, so you're following my drift. Immediate and aftercare of marriage strategies. The first one we're working on right now is intentionally support married couples as they journey through the stages of married life. And then you can see some of the intentional things. I want you to notice on the bottom of that page, it says diolc.org/marriage/marriage-resource. All of the documents that we use are there. If you want to know more about what's going on, take it. Steve did. You might as well. All right, just go get it. I'm fine with that. Just look at our white papers, look at everything. Go to the next page. Here's the stuff. So Steve talked with you about the stages that they have in marriage. We have many requirements. You'll get those when you look at Imperfect Union. But what we've done is, and this was our clergy love that we did this for them. We have on where you see the 4 pictures, okay? That's actually what the engaged couples see when they come to our website. When they come in, they darken the door of the parish and say, hey, we want to get married. The priest hopefully is very invitational, as is the parish secretary. And then they are directed to go to our website. Okay, step 1, 2, 3, 4. But we have a hidden website for our deacons and our priests that matches this. So if you look, the first address, diolc.org/marriage/marriage prep, that's what the public sees. That's what the engaged couple see. But the one at the bottom, DIOLC, the longer one that says marriage preparation for ministers, that's the hidden site. Bookmark it and steal whatever you want off of it. I really don't care. But what it is our priests have everything there, or our deacons have everything there, from the canonical papers that have to be filled out to the imperfect union, to handouts, whatever. But it's put into steps. Step 1, engaged couple comes to you. Now what do you do, all right? Before the marriage retreat, what should you have them doing, all right? How to plan the ceremony. All of the readings that are standard are there, and then nurture your marriage. I would call to your attention on plan the ceremony. I think it's under that one. It's some beautiful information on couples prayer. Go ahead and look at that, all right? These are the things that we get the biggest hits. Finally, Oh, I'm doing really good. I'm doing really good on time. Last page for you. Once we gave our clergy the opportunity to look at this, all of a sudden, the relationship, our office stays in touch with our clergy often. I mean, they are like my brothers in Christ. So they're not afraid to call our office. I'm not afraid to call them. We've worked hard on relationship with them, which is the next thing, which is the promotion, the third P. So you've seen the plan. Now we're going to talk a little bit about promotion. We promote everything relationally. We are with our people. Our agenda doesn't matter. God's does. So we have to drop our staff, as those of you that might have been in the earlier session, we have what we affectionately call the Sugar of Christ campaign. Our job is to sprinkle Jesus' sugar wherever we go. So we start with the sweetness, the beauty, and all that kind of stuff before we get into the tough stuff. And we find it's been great, but we promote relationally. And in doing that, our priests came up with the last page. We collect from them the best practices, okay? I might tell you I might have dropped a few seeds that took root on some of these, but I really don't care. When they tell me, oh, this really worked, I'm like, I'm going to put it on the best practice list, Father. Deacon will do this. One that I want to call your attention to is that if you want to build marriage and make it easier for you to do immediate prep, it's very nice to celebrate wedding anniversaries in parishes. And one thing that a lot of our pastors now do is once a month on the weekend that they choose, at the end of Mass, before the final blessing, they say, all right, anybody celebrating an anniversary this month? And the couples stand up, and they can stay where they are, or they can come up, whatever works, and Father gives them a blessing, or deacon gives them a blessing. What does that do? That tells the entire congregation, whoa, we got people here. How long were you married? 5 years. How long were you married? 60 years. Whoa. And the couples that are standing up, no, we're all married in the same month. Cool. All right? And you call them out, you identify them and everything else. When they walk out of church, everybody's like, congratulations. What did you do with your family? That kind of stuff. Okay. So notice that. We also have some pastors that send out personal notes of congratulations. You can look at that. And then these are the things, everything on that. All right? Know that I'm happy to hear from anybody. You've got my email address. You got the websites, whatever. Just contact, because this is all God's work, and wherever we can spread it, we will. Okay?
Thank you, Alice. Okay, so if you've got any questions at all, please come up to the microphone. And, it's my brother-in-law. He's going to bust my chops. I just know it. He loves doing this in public settings. Okay.
It's just theoretical, Mario. Teresa Notari, I guess, was in the last session here in this room. Okay, she would know the answer to this, but there is a national plan the bishops put out for national family planning. Is that correct? And doesn't that say that engaged couples at least need to get an intro? Does it say in that anyway? But if it does say that, theoretically, could a priest in your diocese say, still require the intro based on the national plan? That he could have the authority to say, well, this is the U.S. bishops asking us to do this, and then he could require the couple to go through an intro to a natural family planning for their marriage prep.
Yes, I totally believe that may be true, and it's true. There's a lot of priests in our diocese that they are promoting NFP, and they are inviting their engaged couples to go through a program. But then again, it has been a challenge, at least in our area. Here in San Bernardino, and I would say even in the whole LA region of Southern California, that you don't see a lot of instructors down here. It's been really hard to get them motivated to get the official or formal training so that they could and themselves be doing that. So I think it's a problem that not only clergy, but it's the diocesan office, us, but also the people, the church needs to step up. And I was so glad to have this conference here in San Bernardino. When they told us you guys want to be co-hosting or be part of, we totally say yes, let's do this. And we've been promoting it. And again, not a lot of people from our diocese perhaps are here. You know, it's the same challenge and struggle. Something I also wanted to share is that as my wife and I went through marriage preparation, we did a lot. I mean, we were really into the church. We were ministers of the church. We were involved in youth ministry, young adult ministry, charismatic renewal. And I mean, when we went to our pastor said, you know what, you don't need to be prepared for marriage. You're already living something. And we were disappointed. Hold on, we want you to offer something for us. Even though we have this experience of church, we want the bar to be higher. Our pastor didn't do that at the time. So we still did it. We went to Engage Encounter weekend. We got our books and we were doing our questions when we were going on our date. But then something that I do want to share with you is that we did a lot. And once we got married, maybe not long after, we discovered that we needed even more. So what that tells me is that marriage preparation is needed. We need to include so many components. But at the end of the day, what I really think it's really important, this is probably my personal experience, the couple needs to understand that they need to go to Mass. They need to have this prayer life, Mass weekly. Not every day, but weekly. The couple needs to understand and have this sense of, this is a permanent thing in my life. Marriage is forever. This is it. I'm committing to this. And lastly, they need to understand it and have a sense that the community, the church is going to be there for them. And we need to provide that in our parishes, in our community. We're going to welcome them back whenever they need it or they're going through a struggle, because we will all go, and we do. I mean, the engaged couple, we all struggle. Even us right here, we're talking about marriage preparation, and we have these concepts. We struggled. It's just part of human nature in a way. It's just every day. We often say, Paola and I, my wife and I, sometimes we just wake up in the wrong side of the bed, and that's life. Children and everything else. So again, there's a lot of things we're doing, but I think we need to be mindful that I think it was something said, relationships very important. The church, the family of families have to create this relationship with the family, the mystic church, and vice versa.
Did you want to say something else?
I sit on the national board for the USCCB with Teresa Notari, as does Cindy Leonard and Karen Pohalis. And what we will tell you is that recommendation is there, Father Berg. What is really a wonderful thing is that most of the natural providers that are approved by the USCCB offer online NFP education. In our diocese, we do have teachers, but most of our education is used through an online platform. And when we started, before our mandate went in, our office talked with priests one by one to explain what the USCCB wanted. And then one by one, they voluntarily put the mandate in at their parish. When we went over 85% is when we put in the full mandate. Okay, so it is very possible.
I would, and correct me if I'm wrong, Father Berg, but I don't believe that any kind of documents from the USCCB are authoritative over a particular bishop in a particular diocese. So if a bishop of a particular diocese doesn't want to require that NFP class, then the priest in the individual parish can't simply say, well, that's the USCCB says this is okay. So anyway, the USCCB is I don't know what the juridical term for it would be, but it's kind of a consult type body, not a ruling body. So did you have a question?
Yes. So I'm Karen Pohalis. I'm the NFP coordinator for the Catholic Diocese of Richmond, and I'm on the national board. We have a diocese that is 10 hours across driving distance on its bottom part. We have 19 teaching units across an entire diocese. So yes, we have to use the online thing. Several questions, some I didn't get on the first session. One is that our marriage prep right now, we have our diocese produced a video series called Unveiled. And the NFP video, I was part of that, but that's not why you should watch it. We had John Grabowski from Catholic U. It was amazing. But they watch that, they hear a little bit, whatever couple's running Unveiled does a little bit of a witness conversation. That's it. It's pretty short. I mean, the video, I think, maybe is about 20 minutes. I'd have to check exactly, and then whatever discussion is after. In other words, we don't get couples knocking at our door after watching Unveiled at one of these. The idea about getting an NFP user couple, I think, is awesome, because, or an instructor couple. You said use instructors to do the witness talk. We don't have enough to hit the, I don't want to sound like I'm whining, but we don't have enough to hit the areas of the diocese where these things are held. Is there any experience doing that remotely? Because we literally can't get all the way down to Southwest. We have nobody near. There is a doctor in the house if you need.
The question wasn't that hard, Mario, but no, sorry.
I didn't mean to kill you, I swear.
While you're getting your voice back.
Because we're trying to move toward eventually getting a requirement. My parish requires an NFP course, but as a diocese, we don't. But one of the things is we can't even get people interested at all after what's our normal marriage prep process.
Sure. I think there are a couple of things there that are important to remember. Number one, be patient in your pursuit. Be very patient, because it does take time. It took us over almost 10 years to get where we are now with that. But I think the biggest thing is to remember that the adequate anthropology, getting the theology of the body and the understanding of that embedded first before the NFP skill set information, is where you're going to, that's your bigger hook.
Right.
That's the one that's going to make them go, well, because they want the best.
Right.
So it's a matter of using the adequate anthropology, the theology of the body, the beauty of that, to say to them, you want to be a master at your sexuality. You want to be in love forever. You want to have, beautiful eros in your marriage. And how do you do that? Well, you have to have, be open to life in this way. But you got to give them that basic foundation first, and therefore using like God's Plan for Joy-Filled Marriage, the tapes from that. There's another one out by Terry and John Bazio, Joined by Grace, is another very good program. Catholic Marriage Prep Online, the sections that they've got in there are very good. So those are things that I would consider.
Gotcha.
I think I'm ready. Good. So what we've done, because we're lacking instructors, right, official trained, we have had these instructors instruct ministers of marriage preparation and marriage education to give introduction awareness courses. And that's been implemented not only in the marriage preparation, whatever they're doing in the parish, but also in the marriage enrichment programs. So when we have a marriage enrichment, we also have, there's a segment, and it's a minimum that I'm telling the teams of an hour at least to just go over not only what is NFP, but go back to theology of the body. Who are we? Why should we do this? Now, not only because we want to convince you to practice NFP, because some of the couples in enrichment, they're not in that season of life no more, but we wanted to learn that this is something they could teach others, their loved ones, their children, their grandchildren. So it's still relevant for a family to learn this.
I'll say again just how important it is to have some form of parish-based accompaniment. As I mentioned, our diocese is probably similar to yours in its sprawl, the geographic sprawl. And you probably have a lot of teeny tiny parishes too, and
3 parishes, 4 parishes share 1 priest.
Yeah. So we don't want to just be. Let me back up. See, so many of the engaged couples they come to the church to get married, and it's for them it's a let's get this over with as quickly as we can mentality. And if we're not careful, we can slip into that same mentality, which is, we just want to, we got other things to do. So we route them toward this, like this online program, that online program. And they just do it as a checkoff item. Meanwhile, they're not really being connected to the parish. So what I always suggest, even though, CatholicMarriagePrep.com is a great option, but I recommend to parishes that you have a married couple, themselves go through this same course, so they know what their engaged couples are going through, and then they can check in with the couples as they're going through that instruction, so that that's part of this enduring, deepening relationship. And it's going to be good for that mentor or sponsor couple. It's going to be good for their own marriages just to learn more about this stuff, so that they're ready and equipped in case if and when the engaged couple comes along. Yeah.
The other comment that I would like to make is that when you do cover a huge area, use your technology wisely in your provision. So we bought a program that allows us a webinar platform. And we have put out webinars, and again, if you go to our website, the Office for Marriage and Family Life at our diocese, you can look at our webinar series from last year, which include parenting classes, but also marriage enrichment. That platform could easily be used we also use that to educate our people in the field, whether it's a marriage prep couple in a parish, or it's a natural family planning group. We get them together to hone their skills. Our presenters for the marriage prep day. So consider that, because that is a really nice way, and then you're not in the car driving, forever.
And one quick, if anyone has comments on how to get the stuff into RCIA.
Good luck.
I'm gonna make
I mean, it's that well.
Ministers that do the RCIA. So in our diocese, we have a certification training. So they come in, and I'm collaborating with those that are doing the planning and doing the strategic plan. And part of that, it's this conversation that I have to have with them, and not just with RCIA, but in every other program in our diocese. So it's just going back to relationships, right? Going back to relationships.
Do people ever put TOB into RCIA?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, because I can barely get like a half an hour.
Yeah.
We, in the RCIA process, the office that's in charge of that with our diocese, I work in line with the director of that office. Provide information that is threaded down then to the parish level, to the RCIA programs. All right, and then we also have that they can either scale it up and come into our office, or they can go into catechesis and evangelization and get it, or they can make a request of us, or we can send it down. So you just have to connect all the dots.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody should come back this afternoon for ours. The doctor one.
I think with RCIA, you just have your NFP teacher teach one of the evenings. That's what we do in my parish. So, yeah, I mean, we have sacrament matrimony one week, and then followed by the NFP course.
But that's if you're lucky enough to have a pastor like you.
Whatever. Quick announcement. Everybody wants some love, and I guess the exhibits are complaining a little bit. That's the problem when you have such good talks and packed together. Please enjoy visiting the exhibits in Hall A during the lunch break. The market's open for lunch as well, and the exhibits close at 4 p.m. So the exhibitors want a little love. I totally understand that.
They paid a lot of money to get that
They've taken the
love,
trouble
too.
to come here. And so switching to married couples, and one of the things that's frustrating for pastors, and as we know, just in general, church attendance, but parishes with parish schools, and couples whose parents who spend a lot of money to send their children to Catholic schools, or even couples who have their children go through the religious ed program in the church, in the parish, but then they don't bring their children to Mass on Sunday. Some of my brother priests have the cards, and they have it all, even technological. Some, maybe there's an app for it now, but where they verify, the child has to verify that they've been to Mass on a particular Sunday, 35 times a year. But I really question how effective that is. Ultimately, you're trying to bring them to a relationship with Jesus Christ. Anything out there to help that helps encourage parents to bring their children to Mass, especially parents who are already bringing their kids to catechism, and married couples bringing their kids to catechism. Anything out there that you guys are aware of?
I would encourage everyone to take a look at 2 studies that will help you put that together. Thanks for the question, Father Berg. First of all, look at the study by Vern Bankston called Families in Faith. It was published in 14, either 13 or 14. But basically it talks about what works to pass the faith down from generation to generation. Very enlightening. If anybody has specific questions, I can pull it up on my computer after this presentation. But the second one is look at Search Institute out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. Search Institute has done a research based on student behavior, risk behaviors. They're the ones that came up with asset building, if you're familiar with that. Anyway, they've done this for over 50 years. And to their credit, they found out 2 years ago, they said, you know what? We forgot to bring the family up. We've been so focused on the kids, we've abandoned the family. And in unintentionally doing that, we have convinced the families, the parents, that everybody else is an expert and the parent is a chauffeur. To their credit, they now put out a study that says don't forget the families. Look it up, okay? Just Google it, you'll find it. What we've done is that we have a program in our diocese called Teaching the Way of Love. Again, you can find it. The website is TWL, the numeral 4, parents.com. And last year, to really roll this out big time, in our deaneries, which are our regions, you might call them vicariates, we brought the parishes together in either the cities or the regions and picked a theme out of that program that was going to become the key theme for the month. Prior to rolling out, starting those themes in October, it was in April of the year prior, so April before October, we started doing stuff in our bulletin to engage parents, questions. Then they put banners up to promote it. We trained the facilitators in the parishes. We did a big push in September, and then in October, we started having small groups in the parishes that you could go to your parish or to this parish. It didn't matter. We put the whole schedule out so that we did not have two things going on at the same time. And we put it out online. We did the webinar. You can go look at them. We started out with pitiful numbers, 6, 10, 12. Okay, remember, this is Wisconsin. By the end, we were having 50 to 60 people engaged at a site, and there were like 6 or 7 sites plus the online. So it built through word of mouth that this was a place where just come in, we fed them. Many of the priests opened up the rectory. Oh my gosh, to get into a rectory and have a meal, that's like secret territory. But if you do it, that's an extra thing to pull them in. And now, this year, we're going to a second round, and this year it's going to be all about fertility, appreciation, and theology of the body. Okay? So, and it's going to be online. If you guys want to go to our website, you can see what it is. You can watch it yourself. We're hoping to break the 100th platform, and then we have to go Facebook Live. Make us do it. Make us do it. But we have had great success, and we're getting questions from parents directly to us that we then filter back to the parish. So we're building their communities in their parishes. But I think we've hit upon something that might be working because we just get them networked. And once they get networked, they realize they all want what's best for their kids.
See what I mean about her being the queen bee? Yes, sir.
My question is, as far as marriage preparation goes, what do you guys do to encourage the parents to get into the marriage preparation for their kids? Because as an engaged couple, it's about a year that we have after we're engaged to learn about marriage and become prepared for it. So I'm wondering if you guys do anything to encourage parents, say like once their kids reach a certain age, to start preparing them themselves in the house as their parents. Because being a homeschooled kid, I know I've learned incredible, valuable things from my parents, and I know I would never have learned them in, say, a class setting as well as I learned them in my home.
And your name is?
Christian.
Christian, thank you for the question. You've touched the hill that I'm about to die on, all right? You have, and that is that we've got to help get catechesis and evangelization back into the domestic church. The model that we use right now with catechesis is a religious ed model, a classroom model that has unintentionally let the parents slack. And that's something that in the homeschooling model, it's not that way. It all happens around the table. It happens organically. It happens intentionally. There's witnesses going on. And we are, in our diocese, are taking a serious look at changing that model so that can happen. And the benefit is that when we get that, the parents begin to understand their witness, the role of their witness as primary educators to their kids. So we're starting to turn that tide intentionally. What are we doing when, if a couple is getting married, Steve is absolutely right. That's where the parish has to take over. Because if, let's say, Joe and Jenny are getting married in a parish, are going to get married at this church, it's likely they don't live in that city anymore, but their parents are in that city. So now how does the parish connect to that family to get that family back in place when the kids fly in from, California, Idaho to get married at their home parish? How do you get that parish prepared to get the people that are over there tucked into that parish over there? So Steve is absolutely right that it's parish, but it's parish interaction with family. And you got to strengthen that. So maybe you're the one that's going to come up with the brilliant idea on how to do that.
And thank you for your question, right? And we're homeschooling our kids too, and we hope that they grow up with that sense of commitment when it comes to marriage. We do a lot of talks with confirmation and parents being there at the same time when we're introducing NFP and we're introducing these topics of theology of the body. And when we tell, or just marriage, and we ask them, when it's a good time for us to start talking to your kids about marriage? And most of the parents would say, and this is very common, oh no, don't talk to my children about marriage. I want them to go through school first. I think we've lost the dynamics of family life and being witnesses for us as a couple to our children as they're growing. We don't have that sense anymore. Something that we're trying to do, Alice talked about the proximate, the immediate, and then the remote, right? There's 3 stages with the pastoral care, we call it here in our diocese. What we're trying to do is we're trying to bridge them, not just talk to them, talk about it. When we're talking about proximate education of marriage, we're talking about youth and teens. Talking immediate preparation, we're talking about the engaged couples or cohabitating couples that are getting ready to receive the sacrament. Or the pastoral care, the remote, the parents teaching the children. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to gap, because we believe that once it's gap, where it's not about the church doing the service, but it's hopefully the families are getting the sense of that dynamic that needs to occur so that the full, the cycle continues.
Part of that answer is that as a parish, we have to start, we have to put the idea of family back in as unit. That when you have a child, for instance, with the youth and young adult group now, they're always out on trips. They're down in Nashville helping people build houses, or they're down in Louisiana helping people with hurricanes, everything else. What we do when we send those kids off on a bus, the kids on their name tags, on the back of their name tags, they have a picture of their family. And it's tucked in there. And on the bus ride down, there are times that they intentionally stop, pull their picture out, and do a prayer for their family, saying, when I go away on this, what am I learning that's going to bring back and add value to my family unit? So we're not taking you away to make you independent. We're taking you away to help build your family unit. And that's a different headset that we've all got to perhaps embrace.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? We are winding down here. Good timing. Any other questions or comments? Sure.
I just have to tell you a story, and this is something that we have to consider because we have a lot of fallen away Catholics. Yes. A personal story, a good friend of mine, one of my dear lady, gal friends, she and her husband went out to dinner with us, told us that her daughter was getting married to a young man that we also knew, and I said, well, when are they getting married? She said, they're getting married in this Rod and Gut club on this weekend. And I'm like, they're not getting married in the church, they're both Catholic. She goes, no one can convince them. So being a minister of the church, my husband and I said, you know what, we do focus. We do a pre-marriage inventory. I wrote the kids and I said, hey, we would love, living together, all that kind of stuff. We'd love to do an inventory. At our own expense, we did that inventory. And without going through a lot, in our third session with them, they realized they want a sacramental marriage. Please pray for Nick and Kristen, who are getting married this Wednesday, with only their family there. And the event in the field is happening in a week and a half later. Don't be afraid to reach out. You might be shaky, but don't be afraid. Because it's through your beautiful witness that you can pull people back, even if their families don't necessarily know how to do it. Okay?
Very good. Thank you. Yes.
Would you just list some of the formation programs that are out there?
Okay, God's Plan for a Joy-Filled Marriage. That's Ascension Press, right? Of course, the CatholicMarriagePrep.com. Now that's both. There's a live and an online version of that one. Together in God's Love, which is by our Sunday visitor.
Joined by Grace.
Joined by Grace.
Joined by Grace, and I think that is, oh goodness. If you just go Joined by Grace and it's Bosio, B-O-S-I-O, are the authors of that one. And I also believe, now that Teresa Notari is back in the room, isn't there a list on the USCCB website of many of the resources for marriage preparation?
They're all, there's a load listed, but it's not necessarily the ones that are our favorites. Another one, is Witness to Love. That's a new one that's out now.
Verret, V-E-R-R-E-T.
That's a marriage prep inventory. It's not
Yeah.
a comprehensive program. But
Father-
actually, but you're right. That program does include a lot of catechesis within it.
My recommendation as a person that works in the diocese, look into your family life ministry. Sometimes they have a list that has been approved by your bishop, and they prefer for you to use that list for their own reasons. So look into your diocese.
All righty. Have a happy lunch.
Thank you.